This is up, so we can start early.
I consent from O.
That is
Consent from O. OJ consent.
okay, cool. Which one? I've heard OG. I heard OO. Who has not consented? What about CG? Is CG here?
Yes, please. CG is here.
Do you guys consent? Do you consent to being recorded?
Yes, please. We consent to that.
That's that is fine. What about OG? Is OG here?
Yes, OJ is here and we allow.
What about CO? Because I'm seeing someone in CO's prep room, and I'm not sure if they're here. I doubt CO is here. I mean, let me just or Ife, can you kindly check on the person in that CO's prep room and ask the person to come to the room? I apologize today. We would start as soon as we have everybody on the call.
And he's calling. He's trying to leave, but Discord is acting up. So he said we should just give them 2 minutes to
I mean, is his partner here? I mean, the only okay one. Okay, I don't think it's part. We'll give him time.
Okay. Or I can just like kick him out from the prep. Okay, let me just remove him from the prep one.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, I think he's here now.
Hi. Hi, like we were waiting for you. Zillal, I hope you can speak. So you are CO. The rest have like already gone through like the procedures. The thing is, we need your consent on whether or not you would like to be recorded. You can just like unmute your mic and say so. And where's your partner? If you are speaking, you are not audible. We cannot hear you. Speak. I saw you left the room. Okay.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes, you are audible now. You're audible. I said we needed your consent on whether or not you'd like to be recorded.
Okay, no problem. You guys can record. We have no concern about it.
Okay. And your partner, or
He has also no concern about recording.
I said your. What about your partner? Your partner.
My partner will join around in 1 minute, I hope so, but because He has some problem with internet issues.
Okay, cool. I'm afraid we'd have to start without your partner. Is that fine with you? Zillal. Okay, I guess you're typing. That works. So on the motion, I said like, okay, congratulations for making it up to you novice finals. You guys have done well, and the efforts have been well recorded and rewarded. So this is the novice finals. It reads the motion. A global wealth tax is where individuals are progressively taxed based on their assets, which would apply at a broadly similar rate in different countries. The motion. This House prefers a world with a global wealth tax. This House welcomes the Prime Minister to start the case for opening government.
Hello, before I do begin, allow me to confirm if I'm audible and clear.
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, thank you. So, good day everyone. I am Nicole, the Prime Minister, and I don't have any preferred pronouns. POIs can be raised through the chat voice or through the voice messaging. And with all that being said, I will begin my speech in three, two, and one. So again, good day, Mr. Chair, dear members of the House panel. Now, what we wanted in here in the opening government is that to actually propose to and create the characterization of how the status quo and what is the problem of this particular scenario that we are about to discuss in this particular debate. Mr. Chair, nowadays there's a lot of things that has been being imprisoned these individuals in different countries due to the different financial and um, different supports coming from their government. Now, in our status quo, we see this world as a particular model in which there's a very big imbalance of distribution of wealth that by the end of the day could um, mess with the current system that we are having right now. The reason why there's a lot of problem, why there's a lot or why is the gap between the rich and the poor are still going like a rift that creates an ocean among them, that is because of the current taxing system that we are having right now. We're in we can see like the taxes that's been received by the government or by the governing body itself from the rich is just like a crumble or just like crumbs of that pie that they have eaten. But if you're going to look upon the amount of tax that they are going to get from these people who were from the lower or from the lower stature, by the end of the day, it could have almost get all of their profit. Therefore, it could have been very detrimental to the stakeholders that we are wanted to um, protect in this particular debate, Mr. Chair. Now, we wanted also to clear in the government side that although this model seems to be uplifting and very catering to these people who were from the lower stature, we already concede to the fact that this is already been this is still have flaws. Therefore, we would like to present to you the problem and the worst and best case scenario that our team or that the opening government has found out throughout this debate. First, the problem is that due to this particular taxing system that is being existing right now in our society, the gap, as what I've said earlier, is being bigger and bigger by the end of the day, especially when it comes to the different scenarios that has been putting right now, especially with the problems like inflation, etc. Now, in our worst case, is that there could have been a very big backlash coming from these rich people and in which they would actually question, right? Because they would actually question, why are you taxing us this big? However, you are getting a little bit, or you are getting to leaning to the these people who do not have the same amount of property as ours. Because, Mr. Chair, if we look upon this worst case scenario in our particular world, this is just a mere consolidation to the feelings of these regions. However, if we're going to look upon the number of the population, the numbers, the data that could have been that would be provided by my deputy prime minister, we could actually understand on why is it necessary for us to create and prefer a world where global wealth um, tax was been depending on your assets and not upon your this current system that we are having right now. In our best case scenario is that we can actually respond to the gap that the rich and the poor was having right now. Why is that so? Now, allow me to present to you um, our argument in which we are looking upon as we look upon the perspective of the masses. How would equity would work would work over equality in the world that we prefer right now? Mr. Chair, first and foremost, this would balance and justify the taxing system that we are having right now. Because by the end of the day, it seems like the taxing system that um, is being implemented as of today is being pro-rich and anti-poor. Why is that so? We are just not providing you this as an assertion. However, if we're going to look upon the different conditions of the different countries, especially from those that are still developing, we can still see on how big um, the money that these people, especially from those people from the lower part of the lower triangle of the social trust structure, has been receiving. Therefore, this could have led to a very unsubstantial and very inhumane quality of life and living that despite working 24/7, despite working hard for almost a day, they would just bring home a little bit of money that could not have actually allow their whole family to by the end of the day survive them. Now, another thing is that through this particular equity that we are trying to pursue in here, we could have create a leverage in which we could actually utilize the taxing or the money that we can get from the rich as a betterment of our country. Why is that so? First and foremost, nowadays, um, there's a lot of people who are complaining, especially allow me to present to you the problem that has been existing in the Philippines, in which there's a lot of people who were from the lower structure of the society, the poor people, who was not being able to afford their basic needs because of the higher inflation rate, which by the end which if I'm going to specify is that we have already been in 7.7 high inflation rate, higher than the last amount of inflation that has been percentage of inflation that has been existing in our country. Now, if we're going to look upon and we are going to actually collect this money from these rich people, by the end of the day, the amount or we can utilize this money to be able to actually cater the needs of the stakeholders that we are trying to protect in here in this debate, Mr. Chair, panel, and members of the House. Those are these people, the poor, the rich, they are also included in that since it is all, these taxes were being used to secure the welfare of these people. And by the end of the day, it is more cost effective rather than if we are going to pursue a very leaning system that could by the end of the day would just protect these people coming from the um lower population of uh the society. So to summarize our points, we as the opening government would like to prefer this world and celebrate it because by the end of the day it would actually benefit and would actually cater the different stakeholders that we provided to you. And we believe that equity could work over equality when in terms of this particular. With all that being said, we're proud to propose.
This house thanks the Prime Minister for his speech and welcomes the leader opposition to start the case for opening opposition.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
All right. All right. So I would like to take my POIs in my statement. No unnecessary bargaining in the speech. All right. So I begin my speech in three, two, one. Okay, panel. Notice some clarity in today's debate, right? What does this wealth like global wealth taxing look like. The info slide made it explain that this particular system is one that is going to tax people that have higher incomes or like people that are wealthier more in society, right? What that means is that you are going to put like a devastating effect even on the ordinary, right? Because these particular ordinary people are people that also depend largely on these rich people in order to survive, because these rich people are people that own industries. They are people that kind of like own certain things that creates jobs and employment for the poor people, right? So we think that when you do this, you are necessarily going to create that particular system, and we think that is bad, right? Panel, to my next characterization, panel, notice that this particular progressive pattern in of itself is one that is unfair. What that means is that it is treating people as means to end, either than them treating themselves as like as ends in of themselves, right? So we think that this is something that is fairly unjust, right? And also to our case, we think that it is largely discriminatory to try to say you are going to use this particular system, which is highly unfair to the rich people, in order to kind of generate wealth, right? Now we even think that to another extent, you are directly not going to generate enough wealth, because in the long run, you will see a lot of people being less incentivized to kind of work hard in order to achieve like greater wealth, right? Because they know at the end of the day, even if they are able to make this wealth, people like the government is one who is going to tax them so high, and they are likely to go bankrupt. And we believe that this is something that is necessarily unfair and shouldn't be considered in this state. To our second point, I think that there will be a larger backlash, right? It means that this particular wealthy people always, in one way or the other, serve as like a philanthropist society. What that means is that because they know they have enough assets, they tend to give charities, they tend to give donations to orphanages and other stuff, right? We think that if you get so high, they will shy away and they are going to fear that because they're thinking that they are now the type of the government. Like we think that that is like that is not that is very much unfair to the poor people and the rich people as well. Panel, the house that we able to give today is like those who will be able to tell us necessarily the kind of like benefits that would be amongst all the stakeholders, that is the wealthy people and the poor people, right? One of the tricks that they are trying to bridge that gap, right? But we see that it is necessarily not going to bridge any gap between the rich and the poor, because at the end of the day, you are even going to like make the rich like kind of have some particular mentality that they are going to like retaliate us for the taxations they are imposing on them, on their customers, or people that don't like need their services, right? So we think that taxation is not just one that like directly only affects people that with this massive wealth, right? Now, notice how I have already characterized that these particular wealthy people, like in vast majority of cases, are people that own companies that employ people. They are people that have like larger assets that also kind of create some level of employment for the minorities, right? So what that means is that if you tax them so high, place an indirect effect on the people in of themselves, and we think that that is something that is extremely bad, right? That we shouldn't even consider in today's debate, right? You know, so to our next case, we think that in as much as these particular wealthy people are also existing in status quo, there's a need for them to be treated fairly, irrespective of their wealth, right? What that means is that you are going to create like some level of bias because you are thinking that you are trying to kind of like generate wealth, right? But we have already told you that necessarily when you build such a system, you're going to shy a lot of people from working hard in order to achieve wealth. What that means is that there will be like there will be less incentivized to kind of look for those wealth, because they will think that at the end of the day they are going to be taxed so high, they are not necessarily going to benefit from whatsoever like massive wealth they have accrued for themselves, and we think that that's something that's necessarily bad, right? But also, if you have gotten nothing from us at all, right, that is not like which is not enough to kind of win today's debate. But not certain things in today's debate. You cannot in any way use like injustice in order to attain justice, right? You know what that means is that when you kind of treat certain people unfair because they've been able to get certain wealth, you are kind of not kind of bringing the level of like equity or equality that their world is trying to preach, right? And we think that that is something that is necessarily bad that we shouldn't even consider in today's debate, right? You know, they come to talk on the whole idea of like them redistributing wealth, right? But we think that we are currently in a system where capitalism is dominant. Why do we think this system is one that's necessarily very important in status quo? This system creates some level of competition within entrepreneurs. It creates competition within businessmen to work hard in order to kind of like continuously make their money, right? What it means is that you are going to encourage people that were not working or people that are necessarily poor from working. What it means is that you are going to kind of create that level of like that level of insatisfaction in society, and we think that that is something that is necessarily bad. But why do we still even think that this system of capitalism is necessarily very important for us to kind of like consider and not distract it, right? We think that when you increase that particular taxation, like to the wealthy people, it is necessarily going to disrupt entrepreneurs. It will discourage them from investing or kind of creating more wealth avenues because they know that at the end of the day, when government see that they have enough wealth, they have like a lot of assets and stuff, the government is going to come for them and is going to tax them extremely high. And we think that that is something that can easily shy them away. And we think we do not want the world where people would would wish to kind of be in the status of mediocrity. And we think that that is something that is necessarily bad, right? So what have we brought to you so far? Well, we have told you how these particular taxing system is necessarily extremely bad, right? Because we have told you that this is something that is going to treat wealthy people as means to ends, other than like leaving them to treat themselves as ends in of themselves, right? So we have told you that, and we have also told you how people will be less incentivized to work hard in order to generate income, right? And to the larger extent, if you like kind of make people less incentivized to work hard in order to generate income, then what that means is that you'll be generating less revenue, right? What it means is that the kind of support you are even trying to give to the minority would not even exist because people are not working hard to kind of generate wealth so that we could tax. And we think that that is something that is very much important for us to note in today's debate. But we have also told you the level of backlash that will be created within the mindset of these wealthy people. These wealthy people that were kind of engaging in that were engaging in certain activities like philanthropism and people that were donating to charities. They think that they will be dissatisfied because they think that the government now targets them and they are not in any way going to work hard towards achievement, like towards kind of like creating that support for the minorities or the poor people in society, right? But we have also told you how discriminated the system is. You cannot use a discriminatory system to solve a discrimination that exists in status quo, right? Be a problem solution mismatch, right? We think that we want a system where you permit everyone to work and generate their wealth and you tax them equally and necessarily do not tax them based on their wealth. We think that that is something that is fairly unjust to them. And we think on any day we should not consider such a word, right? All right. So all
Thank
that being, all right. We've never been proud of those. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this one thank the leader of opposition for his speech and welcome the deputy prime minister to continue the case for opening up of.
Heard clearly and audibly, Mr. Panel.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. So let me just use my timer. Okay, 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 okay. I'll be taking POI to chat. You may type it across the half the time. I will try to take one, and I'll be starting my speech in three, two, one. So panel and the members of this house, which have listened to the first speakers of this debate, we are in this point seeing how two sides care for specific or not specific, but care for certain stakeholders in this debate. While they think that they are catering, um, while we think that they are catering, there's this urgency to put importance to certain stakeholders as given by both the prime minister and the leader of the opposition. And let me give the picture and how it happened by responding to how the opposition opened their case and how the prime minister has stood founded on the better side of this debate so far. So let us see how the leader of opposition went to this debate. He went to this debate telling us that the wealthy should be incentivized with should still be incentivized with the existence of such a mechanism of a global wealth tax, that they are to be the ones suffering more and they are the one to be affected more with the existence on a world where there's global wealth tax system, that there it would just be a slippery slope that when the wealthy are affected, the people that under them are also affected, and their riches that are their assets to be specific in the motion, their assets affected would would actually burden those who are also of the lower class and the poor because the rich are affected. And I think it's such a regretful um opening for the opposition to prove to us that they are so privileged with their case that it seems like they side so much with the littlest um proportion on how the population comes. So the prime minister opened this debate telling us that there would be such a comparison on what is very urgent to be catered to in this round and which of the stakeholders are of much need to this debate. So the prime minister showed us that it's already a concession, or it's a concession to us that there will be a backlash among the rich people, that there will be a disagreement among the rich people on how this global wealth tax would be implemented, because surely their assets would lead to bigger taxes. Yet let us standardize this debate by reminding you that this progressively tax applied to different countries, it's so much of it's so much of um an idea that these rich people actually gives um less burdens to themselves than to how um the marginalized people, the lower class people are burdened in the status quo. So give you the picture that according to the statistics, even in a rich places, the US, the proportion of the rich to the poor is that the rich who are on the top of of this social classes, or even we can even say that it's like a food chain already, that they are the ones who are primary benefiting from the capitalism, even by the opposition is claiming is that they is that they are even less than 1% of the population. And I can even give you the exact of it because it's very little compared to the very big proportion of the stakeholders that we're to care for. And it's actually equity over equality that we propose to you. That equity that we need to be fair. And if they're thinking that's unfair to tax people because of their assets, imagine on developing countries where the rich and the poor is actually given by the illustration or the example of my prime minister, is that it's very unfair or unjust for us to be sitting on such a world as that. And to continue with the case of the opposite of the government, opening government, is that given that this is a global health tax system, right? This is a global health tax system, right? And we think and we claim on the opening government that this is actually better in the relationship of different nations in correspondence for them to taking care of their corresponding economies. Imagine, panel, a global wealth tax system is implemented, whether or not many states or nations would agree, if there would be this implemented global wealth tax system, progressively tax or broadly there is similarities among different nations. There will be discourses intended to talk about this global health tax system that they would need to talk to one another. How is it going to your country? How is the rich and the poor not in this imbalance that has happened to us before when we are in such in comparison, that they should still pay the same, that they should be taxed the same, and they should contribute the same, when the poor is when the those of the lower class is actually needing the intervention from the state as the good father. And we are to continue telling you that even if um even if the government, uh, even if inside government that we are lacking this catering to the rich. Imagine how would the opposition side actually correspond to the burden of epistemic access, that they sound so privileged and they just cater for such a small proportion of people who actually can live by themselves, while us on the government side, we want to respond with urgency, respond with equality, and respond with justice in such a world where people are in need and poverty is still prevalent when we see it in the world. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm proud to host.
This house thanks the speaker for his speech and welcomes the next speaker. Please, before the next speaker starts, can you give me like 1 minute to sort out something? Okay, done. Yeah, this house welcomes the deputy leader of opposition to continue the case for closing opposition, for opening opposition.
Okay. Please, should I write our names in the chat, or I should just debate? You already knows our names, like you know us.
Um, I think you should write your names. Yeah, write your names. Write your
Alright.
name in the chat box.
So I'm
Opposition.
doing that. All right. So my name is Sulemana Mohammed Jamaldeen. I prefer my POIs to be asked after my 5 minutes. So please, judge, after my 5 minutes, just give a notice so that people will ask POIs. So no one should badger into my like speech. I don't like that. So please, am I audible enough?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
All right. So okay, let me set my time. Okay, let's win the debate. I start in X, Y, Z. Panel, this is a preferred motion. What this means is that what OG was supposed to do was to tell you how the motion affects the real world. What changes in terms of socialization? But then three, how does people engage to it or respond to it? This is what they didn't do. You got that from my member. Secondly, they were supposed to characterize us. They didn't give you any characterization. You got that from also my leader of opposition. It means that those credits you are going to give it to us. Also, they cannot get speakers calls over us because they didn't do those things. No, they didn't answer those things. Panel, also realize in today's motion, who wins the debate is the person who has the most votes. dependent on who prove that his world best support minorities, who give more utility to the minorities, because stakeholders are the higher income earners and the lower income earners. So who best give closure to the lower income earners? Panel, I'm going to argue the three types of principles. I'm going to argue principles. What this means is that for you to rebut them, you must also bring principles. Also, if you do not rebut them and you bring other forms of impacts, it means that principles are applied in all the world. Impacts can only happen in certain circumstances. It means that the principle should weigh over all impacts. Based on the principle and why it is justified, why it is not justified. Panel, individuals are entitled to things that they add value to. For you to get money, you have to go through some certain kind of work. You have to work your ass off. You have to work harder. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, was working 100 hours a week. He was not going out. He wasn't partying. He wasn't doing anything. Panel, they use their body to earn this money. Therefore, the rights they have over their body directly transfers to the rights they have over their property. Panel, why is this important in today's debate? Because once you are taxing them differently from others, it means that you are exploiting their rights, because the rights they have over their body is a kind of value that they use to get the money. The rights they have is equal to the rights that they have on the rights they have over their body is equal to the rights they have over the money. It means that one, the right to entitlement of property, and two, the right to entitlement of justice and fairness. We think that this is not gotten in their world. But then secondly, on the principle of equality, panel, on the principle of equality, individuals have to be treated equally, irrespective whether they are poor or rich. At a point where you target some particular people just because they are having some, they've worked their ass off, or because they have gained money, and you want to tell them that the money that they have is not as a result of their hard work. You are telling them that, okay, we are coming to tax you. We don't think it is principally fair on the principle of equality. Third principle, fundamental injustice. Panel, targeting these people is a fundamental injustice and a kind of narrative that you are going to portray that, okay, higher income earners are people who earn the money and they don't deserve it, so we need to take chunk of the money from them. That is how you are portraying. We think this is a fundamental injustice. But then third, why is it biased? Because you treat these individuals as a means to an end. But then why is it bad? Because it treats this individual of their humanity, how they worked and value their lives, and they worked and took time off to get this money and just come and take it. We think that it is a fundamental assault to their human dignity. But then four, principle of legitimacy. It is not legitimate because on the principle of fairness and justice, we think that you do not do them any good. Panel, let me take PM out. They came and said, okay, they considered that there is going to be a worse backlash from the rich people, from the higher income earners. But notice that the backlash will lead to corruption. How? In two key perspectives. One, most higher income earners are politicians. Once you take huge amounts from them, they will increase embezzling funds in order to make up for the money that you are taking from them. Because these politicians are people who are already used to some lifestyles that are luxury lifestyles. Once you take this money from them, they will try to kind of get other ways of refunding this money. It means two things. One, they are going to still set conditions that will favor them over minority. We think that you don't protect minority will not self-actualize. But then two, no development due to the corruption that will exist because they will embezzle funds. But then three, no self-actualization on minority. Fourth, panel, these high income earners, these politicians, they will try to make policies that will favor them. It means that the budgets of the presidents are now going to be favoring them because they are losing out at some particular point. They will try to gain this amount of money. Panel, minorities still suffers in their world since policies will not even favor these minorities. But then two, panel, comparatively, the reason why our world is comparatively better is because we think that you do not incentivize these higher classes to make policies against minority. But then panel, second reason why they lose. DPM came and said that, okay, in the US, the rich people are less than 1% of the population. If we tax them, nothing will happen. And they came and they give you huge impacts. That once they tax the of target from only 1% cannot give you the impact that they want in their world. That is an unfair world. That is an exacerbated impact. Their impacts are unrealistic. Their messages cannot support it. They say rich people are 1%. Now, how can you tax this 1% to cater for the kind of impact that you prove? But then the negative impacts that will come from the backlash is worse than the kind of money and tax you just get from the 1% from the US. But I also notice that most of these these taxes are not used to build amenities. Most of them are used to fight wars. Most of them are used to buy nuclear gadgets and fight and just wars. But at a point where states just exploit the rich just for their gain, just to try and buy nuclear weapons, try nuclear weapons because they are capitalistic, we think that it is still an it doesn't bring any utility to minorities because it is just less portion of this taxes they use to build utilities and infrastructures. The check amount of it will be used to fund and just wars. We think that they do not support they do not give any utility to minorities. They cannot over us. They don't support. They don't give any utility to minorities. But I'm panel income earners. These are people who are mostly philanthropists. We've seen how the base is now giving over with giving charity. We've seen how they donate to social welfare and all those stuff because these people are people who have realized that they have high income earners. Once and they have the right to choose what they should do when we think it is intrinsic on them. That is their right. They have the right to either support minorities by giving them these philanthropies and donation to social welfare and charities or not. Because of that, more people are doing it out of self-will. Because if they are doing it and send them to do it, they are getting blessings from their creator or whatsoever. But then in that world, you are going to target them. They will then get to know that the president is kind of targeting them. We think the target is even unfair and unjust, and they will get a backlash to minorities. Minority will suffer in their world. That is why they cannot win today's debate over us. Panel, they say that that they prefer equity over equality. Panel, you do not want to you don't want to attain equity. When you want to attain equity, you do not have to increase the inequalities in society. You have to put a level playing ground for everybody to thrive in order to reach the equity. How it is true? Because feminism is always going to campaign for equal rights and equal playing field. Why? Because they want equity. Why are they then campaigning for equal rights and equal playing field, level field, so that everybody will be equal? Because one, this playing field is not something that is unjust, and two, this playing field will also not incite any anger against them. But then, that is the only way to solve or fill gaps. If you claim that there are gaps between class, upper class and higher class, we don't think that the apart from just few percent of the population will just solve the gap. And we think that in their world, you get no solvency, you get no utility to minorities. Panel, why are we winning extensively? Because we gave you 7 principles. Why then can no one against these principles? For anyone to win over us, they need to come with other principles that will defeat our principles. Because principally, you cannot win without defeating these principles. The principles will weigh over impact. We are very proud to win.
Thank the deputy leader of opposition for rounding off the opening half of the debate. I really apologize to my panelists for not allowing you to introduce yourself like before we start. Please, you can do that now. I'm very, very sorry. It skipped my mind. Ife and Becky, please kindly introduce yourselves.
Yeah.
Cool. So I invite the member of government to start his cases as the closing hour begins.
Please, am I
Yes, you are.
okay? So I begin. So the motion before the House is this House prefers a world with a global world tax. And we from CICG is going to prove to you why the world will be a better place when we have a global world tax. But before that, a bit on rebuttals. And after that, I'll be doing a couple on characterization and framing. I'll give you some impact and I'll give a comparative analysis since this is a preferred world and why we prefer one world over the other. Moving on to some rebuttals, right? OO comes telling us that it will resolve their main case revolving around backlash. But we tell you that this is they skip reality, right? Because this happens in reality. It's everywhere in the world. There's tax brackets where tax ranges from various percentages. Why? Because we believe that we humans are not of the same strength. You can't tell someone who is working a meager job to be paying the same amount of tax as somebody who is a multimillionaire like Elon Musk. This doesn't work, right? And we believe that this breaks the principle of fairness that they preach about, right? They talk about um this being unfair. We believe that this is not unfair, because when you get more from society, these rich people are draining society. So if you get more from society, we believe that there is the incentive for you to give back to society. Moving on panel to a bit on characterization of him, we believe that there is great classism in society, right? We believe that rich people keep getting richer and poor people keep getting poorer. Why is this very, very important? Panel, we believe that this is very justified for we to prefer a global world tax, because each government has their tax to actually make sure that these poor people are not over exploited by rich people. By taking more tax, by taking more tax from these rich people, government is able to accumulate more money in order to create more jobs, so that to break the kind of like monopoly of these rich people on the market, right? This we people have equal access to income and wealth, and this is a type of society that everybody wants, right? I believe that everybody wants to be living a very comfortable life. So on that classified thing, moving on to the second, a world where panel recognize that the info slide says that it's a global tax, so it's going to be paid on a similar rate by different countries, right? So we believe that this will give Africa an opportunity to rub shoulders with people as a panel. Why do I say that? It will give Africa an opportunity to rub shoulders with their counterparts on the global market. Panel recognize that this is going to be a similar rate tax. So saying that in a year, if the net total or standard of living of people happens to be very poor, because we realize that this year we are not making much, or in the world we are not making much, this will make countries on the globe, right, pay tax that will be much comfortable to everybody. What then does this bring to us? This brings to us where countries who are very endowed, let's say the first world countries who are very endowed, and keep on paying high tax, meaning that their net revenue income is going to be so high, so they're going to be producing on a larger scale. And what effect does this have on Africa, right? You realize that there are things that they're going to be importing or selling it to us. It's going to be so expensive, and this is going to harm so many countries in Africa. So we believe that on both extremities, talking about happening in the country as a whole, as a national, and happening on the globe, we believe that this is something that is going to help minorities, which I classify as a third world country, right? Pano, given this characterization and framing, I move on. We believe that another characterization is that Africa has a lot of people on the continent, right? That's Pano, the money we make is less as compared to those outside, right? And Pano, this is going to be relevant as I move on, right? Moving on to impact, we told you that this will help us raise more money for development, because on a situation where we do not make our standard of living is not high, and people are paying more tax, and we are not able to make that much tax revenue as them, our cost of production is not going to meet theirs. So Pan will not be able to sell our goods at a much higher rate as theirs. And this happens all the time, and it's keeping us very, very poor. So we believe that we buy into global revenue tax any day, anytime. Pan, we moving on. We believe that it protects minorities on a larger scale. On panel, on a situation of national level, right? Global wealth tax, where the rich people are going to be paying more as compared to the poor people. As I already said, the government is going to get more money to break monopoly of private companies. Breaking this monopoly will help them create more jobs and increase standard of living. On the extreme end of where global tax is we are going to be paying similar rates of tax, right? What happens is that they are not going to get so much money in order to come in at the end of the day. Since we don't have that much money, borrow that money onto us, panel. So we've been on both extremities, right? Panel, moving on, we believe that this is going to create a socialist society, creating more jobs. Panel, this is what we want. We don't want a capitalist society. Capitalist society is going to harm more people in Africa. We believe that this is going to create a socialist society, and in the long run, many people are going to have very comfortable life. Panel, moving on to comparative analysis, we believe that there's going to be less dependence and borrowing. There's going to be less dependence and borrowing, and it's going to help both stakeholders in this, or both actors in this, right? Panel, why do I say so? Looking at the classism we have, as already stated, you have people being first world countries and people being second and third world countries, right? You realize that day in, day out, we are going to them, putting overburdening them, right? So at the end of the day, our world protects everybody, the interest of everybody, because at the end of the day, you will be able to match up to them, because you are gaining, you are gaining on the same scale, right? You'll be able to match up to them in the long run. You not be going to them day in, day out that, hey, please, I want money, give me money, and then they are they are not they are going to be more comfortable and all that, right? You're not going to overburden them. And in the second side, you are going to be more improved. So what happens is that you're not going to get brain drain as we get all the time in Africa, right? Because at the end of the day, standard of living in all parts of the world are going to be equal, right? So there will be no chances of you overburdening somebody, and you in person, you are improving as a whole. And in the long run, from the individual level to the global level, everything is moving on smoothly. And this is what we get in our world as a comparative analysis compared to their world, where they believe that there shouldn't be a global tax, where you're not going to be taxing people based on their income, and that spreads across all countries, right? So moving on, we believe that we are going to create an egalitarian society. Okay, thank you very much.
This house thanks the member of government for speech and welcomes the member of opposition to start the case for closing opposition. Member of opposition, you are up.
Okay, I'll start my debate in 10 seconds. I'll start my speech. Maybe I'm audible to everyone. Uh, if there is any point of information, I definitely prefer to take in text channel, and I'll try to take minimum 5 minutes. Okay, let's start my speech in 3, 2, and go. Thank you, honorable panel, for giving me the floor on this big stage. First of all, I'll give you some rebuttal, which is introduced from opening government and closing government. If we summarize the whole debate from the opening government and also from the closing government, we're not really getting many exclusive idea from the closing government. And even from the whole government side, they're talking about the raise the revenue system, and secondly, they're talking about the rich and poor people rights. It means that they just want to equalize the economic system of the state. We will show you by the rebuttal how it will not be happened by global wealth tax. First of all, think about it that they just try to give me an idea that I just want to raise the revenue system, but this was not really working out well. Why? If you look in 1990, the 12 European countries just implemented this idea of global wealth tax. But this is not really workable. It is really devastating in only the 4 days. Why? Number one, think about it. Rather than there is a huge backlash. Right? Why? Number one, think about it that oil tax is a difficult to administer. Number two, we believe that on this status quo, by getting the example from the Europe, many people just want to leave their countries because of the high tax. Even in the context of this debate, the similar rate will be the different. But we believe that when the people will be facing this sort of problem, they will think different thing to leave the country, and even they just want to hide their property. I will extend another idea of how exactly they will hide their property. And finally, we believe that as you want to raise the revenue system, it will not be working out. Rather than that, we'll find out other means to evade the taxation. And let's move on. We believe that the idea of the whole government side, the raise revenue is not really working out well. Number two, they're talking about the race and poor people, the equality will be happen. We believe that it will not be really be happen. Rather than there will be very huge backlash in the society. How exactly it will working out? Let's move on. When the successful people and when a person who is rich, who have a huge money in the society, when you are really investing, when you are implementing this sort of global oil tax, it means that you are really making injustice. In even case, we believe that when you are really making a huge assets with the taxation, that people will be anger to the poor people. It means that the society will be in the devastating rather than you are going to create the equal system. So it means that when you are focusing on the equal system with the global oil thing, it will not really happen. Rather than you should move on another thing. You can go with the charity system. You can go with the another system. And even if you want to follow the Marxism or socialism, it can be happen. Rather than this global oil tax system could not be able to implement the equality system in the society as a tool. Let's move on. What is the really missing from the both upper house, even closing the door? They're really talking about the global wealth tax. But thing about it that the retirement accounts, the investment of individual is also the with the global wealth assets. So let's move on the extension. As from the closing opposition, just try to give you. We have one principal argument and three consequential arguments. Number one, we believe that there is injustice with some individuals. How exactly it happens? The extension, how exactly working out. Think about that. I'm really working many hours my whole life, and I have sacrificed my life to earning my life. I'm just it means that I'm investing my whole life to creating some money, gathering some property asset. When you are just giving input that you have to pay the global wealth system, we believe that this is creating the justice system. And that's extension number two. We believe that this means that you are creating double taxation. When I am a person who really already giving the corporate tax, even I'm giving the income tax, it means that I'm also giving the estate tax. But when you are giving me a burden to give the global oil tax, we believe that as a person, as a some individual, this is huge burden that can be a principally unjustified, as we believe. And you have no right to give me a double taxation as from my side. And let's move on. No, this debate is happening in the Warren and Sanders, which is it will happen. That what it will happen. Some people just trying to do one thing. They just try to hide their oil for the high taxation. Think about it that as we know about the Switzerland. And Switzerland is implementing this law. But there are many people, those who are really hiding their property from the state. And I believe that this hiding system creating instability in the society. And you would not be able to reduce this instability from the society, which is the second extension from the closing opposition. And I believe that you want is creating a unstable scenario because a person is really sacrificing his whole life for earning money, giving the many hours from his life to gathering the money. And we believe this is really punishment for successful investors, successful businessmen. We believe that this is ethically wrong also. This is the second extension. So let's move on the third extension. We believe it's creating devastating sin for the society. How exactly it will happen? Think about it that we believe it's difficult to determine the market value of many forms of wealth. How exactly? Example, private holding company, personal and household effects, some investments. Think about it that I have a land, some land in the rural area and also in the city. But I have to give the same tax, like 5 kilometer land, but I have to pay the 10% tax. It means that this is really unjustified because you are not really able to determine the market value of this form of oil. So we believe that when you are really investing this thing, this is really problematic. Let's move on some impact. We believe that there is a negative impact. When you are implementing this world global wealth tax, there is negative impact. Number one, we believe that the new startup company will not be created. New innovation will not be created because they think about it that if I have no really chances to get a huge money because I have to pay the global oil tax and for that reason I'm not really getting new startup. Anyway, I'm not really very different. So we need that many states. Around 97% people are giving the income tax currently. You have no really happens to create this thing. Rather than we have an alternative income tax happen, proportional tax is happen. Also, value added tax is in the will still not happen. And for that reason, closing opposition is getting the rank on this house. Thank you, our panel and judges.
This House thanks the member of opposition for that speech and welcomes the government with around it of the government. Yes, you're.
Okay, I'll start my speech in. Okay, but before then, for POIs, I would want it to be put in the text space, and preferably, I would want that the POIs should come in my between my fifth and sixth minutes. And okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. Member of government has already clarified the issues that are important in today's debate. What I would do here today is to make a quick rebuttal to some of the points that have been raised by up bench and make clarifications. First, they say that once this is implemented, what we will do is that we will place an undue burden on rich, which could affect the poor through unemployment. And we say on our side that this is highly unlikely because this is not going to place an undue burden on the rich. The reason why we say this is that we know that taxes work through rates, and this rate is going to be put on asset. What we have in status quo is that you pay as you consume. Then the problem we have in status quo is that a lot of wealth holders actually hold wealth. They hold billions in their accounts at the time that government cannot reach into their accounts and tax this wealth. So it means that it's only the poor consumer who gets taxed and taxed. And this is highly unfair. So once we implement a scheme like this, it's going to apply across the income spectrum. It means that people who have a lot will pay a lot, not necessarily that people who have little assets will not pay also. They also pay, but the rates is going to be said that the richer will pay more. So this is not going to place an undue burden on the rich. And we also believe on our side that this is going to even incentivize the rich to work more. Why do we think this is true? Because this is true because once you know that the assets I have gathered is not going to sit in my bank account as what I have forever. Government is going to keep taxing it and it's going to keep decreasing. I would be incentivized to keep working in order to keep growing my wealth. Otherwise, in 10 years, 20 years, my wealth is going to be depleted just by the taxes that keeps accruing by my assets. So it means that the rich will still have to work, even though they might be rich, they will still have to work in order to keep the money that they have. And this is going to produce more employment for the poor. So that point that has been made by OB is invalid. They also argue principally, their whole argument is based on the faulty assumption that this taxation is unfair. And we say that this is not unfair because this is a rate that is going to be on assets, and anyone who has the asset is going to also pay the tax. So what we also say, even taking them at their best on this issue of unfairness to the rich, what we say is that it is still fair, even if they say that the rich could pay more and because of that is unfair. We say it's still fair because what taxes actually do for society is that taxes go into building social infrastructure such as transportation systems, and it is these same companies, these same rich, super rich people who have a lot of vehicles and goods that they transport using this social infrastructure. So it means that whilst they use this, their wealth should also go more into constructing it because they use it more in the first place. So this is not unfair. This is going to provide amenities for them that would even grow their businesses further. And we also argue, they say that the rich engage in social corporate responsibilities, and doing this means that once we implement a tax like this, they would be disincentivized to actually engage in corporate social responsibilities. We say that this is not true because we know in status quo that the rich and people who have wealth in society do corporate social responsibility in order to boost their social image. So it means that they will, at any rate, they will still have the incentive to do corporate social responsibility. Then again, we say even if they are disincentivized, it is still justified to implement this taxation, because once we implement this, we know that corporate social responsibility is not compulsory, and a lot of super rich people have publicly proclaimed that they do not believe in corporate social responsibility, and in fact they do not practice it. But having a tax like this is going to not give them that luxury, because whether you like it or not, you would have to pay, and government would then use that wealth to make sure that they provide facilities that are able to boost societal development. So we believe that this is fair and it is justified. Also, my member has already told you that this taxation is justified, but to add to what she has said, we believe this taxation is justified because at any rate, people who have a lot of wealth are incentivized to actually keep their wealth in their accounts and not consume, so that they will not be taxed. And this that's a great disservice to the larger society, especially the poor and marginalized. So what this taxation is going to do is that it's going to leverage, it's going to equalize the playing field for everyone, so that even when you have the assets in your bank account, you have it in terms of physical infrastructure, a portion is still going to government and it's still going to society. And that is the most important thing. The utility to society is what is important in today's debate. Panel, notice that we are having today's debate at a time in the global event where about 50% of the global wealth is controlled by less than 1% of the world's population. Is that a lot of wealth, over trillions of dollars, is actually in the hands of a very few people. And these few people, how much can they consume? If you are going to go by direct consumption taxes, how much can they consume in a lifetime? It means that this wealth is just going to be passed down from generation to generation, and we would not have the redistribution of wealth that we want in society. And this is inherently detrimental. And we argue on the side of government that it is better that we tax the wealth that they have based on the assets that one accrues in society. And that's what my member has already pointed out. You know very well that all the factors of production belong to society. You might have owned them, but actually it's the property of the larger society. So it means that you have taken more from society, and it's only fair that you give more to society based on the assets that you have accrued, using the same social amenities that were meant for everyone else. So now, on the points that we have, opposition also says that there's going to be double taxation and we cannot accurately determine the market value of people's assets. We say that this is false, because we know that in status quo, in fact, Norway is currently practicing this. And why? How is Norway doing it? When you have a company in the northern region and someone else has another company in Accra, the market value of these companies cannot be considered as the same, and the taxation and the rates will work differentially based on the market value, the current market value. So you cannot say that this is going to be unfair and is going to give any problem. At any rate, we say that we would adapt the Norway model in implementing this policy. Now, to our substances, my member has already pointed out that this is very important, especially considering that the info slide has given us the leeway that is going to be applied at similar rates across different countries. What it means is that producers, especially people who produce a lot, it means also that they contribute a lot to global events such as global warming and climate change. So once we tax them more, some of these taxes can be channeled into solving problems of global climate. So it means that it's only fair, in fact, very, very fair to the larger global world, that the people who have more, in fact, are contributing more to global catastrophic events such as climate change. And it is very fair that we should tax them more so that we can channel some of these taxes into building assets that make our world resilient, so that we can hand over a friendly and resilient ecosystem to the next generation of humanity. And I don't see why our bench would argue against such a salient and reasonable policy. Also, we argue on our side that this is going to bring about an issue of redistribution of wealth. And my member has already pointed out today how this is going to happen. Once we implement a policy like this, it means that... Hello, is someone speaking?
Yeah, your time is up.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let us thanks the government whip for his speech and welcomes the opposition whip to round up the debate. Opposition whip. If you are speaking, you're not touching. Opposition whip.
Sorry, I was disconnected some reason. Uh, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Okay. I'm starting my speech in three, two, one. Panel. What does the wealth tax looks like? Let's clear with a very simple example. In a same area, in a same country, you are rich and you have 10 acres of land, and besides you, someone have only 1 acre of land. Because of you have 10 acres of land, on that time you have to pay tax of 10%. But someone have only 1 acre of land on that time he have to pay only 2% of the tax of his asset. That means the same type of land, same type of nature, only because you have more on that time you have to pay more tax, more percentage of your tax. It is totally unjustified. Totally why it is very much unjustified, because if someone is rich, this is very much important. If someone is rich, what does this means? This means he have more economic activity. That means he produce more, he add value more in the society. That means he have create more jobs for the society, he have create more jobs for the labor, more jobs for the their poor person. That means someone who is have make his assets by production process, by creating job, but you have charging more from him. This is totally unjustified. This is totally in principle. And on this point they will this kind of production process and this kind of rich person will be demotivated. And someone the side government is comes with the idea the poor are in the very bad condition, the rich are in the very good position, so the poor have, so the rich have to pay more. This is principle. Why this is principle? This kind of rich person is, are this person, this kind of rich person is liable for the condition of the poor? This was not well mechanized. So this kind of principle argument is not well mechanized in this house. And now comes with the idea, they want to their whole entire government want to lessen the want to remove the inequality from the world, but they cannot able to remove the inequality from the world. Corruption. In the third world country, corruption is very much prevailing. That means when they are extracting more tax from the rich, but when they are investing to the when they are investing to their country, when they are allocating their budget, on that time they will allocate more for the rich. That means when your government is very much evil, when the government have connection to this kind of rich businessman, they to the big corporation, not only the third world country. When you are giving when you are going to the bigger country like US or UK, in the voting process, they have very much influential, and that time the rich are giving more tax. But when this kind of government, they are very much evil, they are implementing the idea, they will invest to the road, they are invest to the project for the developing of the elite society. That means this kind of inequality will also prevail. But what they, this will also create a chaotic situation in your society. They are the opening the closing government is very much concerned about the minority. But in our world, in the current status quo, this kind of very much big corporation, this kind of very much big businessmen, they are doing the many philanthropic activity, they are giving aid in the some case, they are giving huge amount of money, huge amount of philanthropic aid to the government to aid this kind of minority. But when you are charging more for they are more wealthy, when you are charging more wealth, their business will be affected on that issue. There will be anger, and they will suppress this kind of minority, and this kind of aid they will not give. This kind of philanthropic activity will be less than. On that time, in your world, the minority will be a bad situation. At least marginally, they will be a bad situation. And we have already shown in the term of inequality, because of the economic, because of your government is very much evil, so you cannot listen the idea of inequality. And you are you are living in a world which is based on capitalism idea. What is the idea of capitalism? The capitalism idea, when you have more innovation, when you are more competitive, then you can earn more. But when you are charging more from this kind of when you are charging more from the rich, when you are charging who are more competitive, who are more innovative, on that time you are harming the idea of capitalism. That means it creates a hypocrisy, it creates a credibility problem to this kind of rich person. You are motivating a market based economy, you are motivating the capitalism, but you are charging more from from that kind of person there. You are motivating by the demotivating by their business, by the policy. That means it creates a problem in your society. And thirdly, this is very much important, they are dreaming a very much fluent economy, they are vivid economy. But when you are charging more from the rich person, on that time there will be a money laundering creation. That means in your country, a wealthy person have to pay more because he have more. But on that time he will laundering money to the other country. That means when in a country who have the liquidity crisis, or who have the asset crisis, who have the investment crisis, on that time this kind of big corporation, this kind of big person will laundering money, they ship the asset to the other country. On that time your country will face a liquidity crisis. On that time your country will face an investment problem. That means your economic activity and your economic development will be very much hampered. That means what the side government is giving you, they want to remove the inequality. But if you see because of the evil problem, because of government policy, you cannot remove the minority problem. They have already introduced the brain drain problem. Why they are giving this kind of idea? They are trying to telling, when you are implementing this kind of idea, your economy will be very much well flourished and brain drain will not happen. But we have already shown this in your world, the money laundering has happened, the liquidity crisis happened. That means in your world the economic disadvantage will prevail, your economy will be poor, and that means that drain will also happen. And the last problem, very influential problem, you are imposing tax in same rate of the whole entire world. But in different countries they have different economic activity, they are a different inequality problem, they have a different infrastructure economic idea. When you are implementing this kind of idea in the same rate, that means they are creating a backlash, they are creating a class difference. There will be a class difference clash. That means the rich people will clash with the middle class people, the lower class people. That means your world will be more chaotic situation. That means you have already proven you cannot solve the inequality problem, you cannot solve the minority problem. You have taken a very huge burden. But as a side opposition, we have not giving this kind of a very big problem. We have only advocate you this kind of philanthropic aid, this kind of corporate social activity. You can broaden this kind of idea, and at least marginally in your world, this kind of poor people, this kind of marginal people will be benefited. Thank you. Proud to oppose.
Uh, this house thanks the opposition with for rounding of the debate. And this house thanks all of you for showing up and participating and speaking very well. I invite like the panelists to the adjudication room for deliberation. And I wish you guys the best of luck.